So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who organized this. Where's Becky Morrell? You know, we've got to recognize the people who actually do the hard work and heavy lifting, because it's not easy to get people to turn out to political events sometimes. And whoever was responsible for this building, whoever you are, perhaps it's Becky as well, you deserve a round of applause. You man and woman up, you. And we're going to look back in November and remember this day, saying this is where it all began, the road to change and save our country from the ruin it's become. But I want to start this by saying, as I do every single event, is that you literally have to imagine this election cycle as historic. In the arc of American history, this is equally as historic as anything we've ever been through. You have to fundamentally believe that our freedoms and liberties are at stake. And they are. And you have to understand, especially in my case, is the people which we're competing against or fighting against have a much larger army, they have many more people, and they have a whole lot more money. For example, my opponent raised a lot of money, but it all came from, ironically, Wall Street and Washington, D.C. So let's admit it right now, we are like the Americans when the British came up the Hudson in New York, and they looked at all those ships floating up the river, and they thought, wow, we might be outmatched and outgunned, but we've got freedom, and we've got liberty, and we've got independence on our side. So I need you to remember that literally this is a historic election cycle. And later in 1792, a Frenchman named Alexis de Tocqueville came to this country, and he saw the progress since the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. He said, I love American freedom and liberty, but if the American Congress realizes it can bribe the American people with their own money, the end of the Republic will be in sight. So let's fast forward to where we are today, everybody. I've been driving around in this debt truck going town to town to town to try to tell Mainers and Americans how bad the situation is. And it is historic. We are $13 trillion in debt as a country. If you add in our unfunded obligations over the next 30 to 40 years, we're $60 trillion in debt. Now that's a lot of money, you all know that, but what does it mean? It means that future generations, my 5-year-old and my 8-year-old, will have to give up more of their liberty, their property, and their speech, and everything else for the government to take ownership and control of that. So it is real, and it is upon us right now. And ironically, if you look at Washington, D.C., and you look at Wall Street, you see a coming together of Washington, D.C. and Wall Street. They should rename Pennsylvania Avenue to be Wall Street, because now the Obama administration has sided with corporations and subsidized their cash flows and subsidized their revenues. And this jeopardizes our very freedom. So I think I've got you convinced that this is absolutely historic. People say, Scontras, what are your qualifications? I said, I've been in business 15 years, I've studied the Constitution, those are all great, but the defining qualification for me this time around is that of father. Because I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, as I said. And it's quite possible that when my 5-year-old daughter, if we don't change things, by the time she's in her prime income earning years, we'll have to send every dollar she makes to Washington to pay the interest on the debt. So people say, what is the solution? The solution is very clear. It is what always has been and what has always delivered generations of Americans from slavery, bondage, and into prosperity. And it's the idea of American exceptionalism. That this country is great because we afford people opportunity in the pursuit of happiness, and we don't guarantee it. I know this because my grandparents came from a small village in Greece. Greece fought off communism, but they got socialism. And they were stuck in a system by which if you didn't know the right person or have the right family name, you weren't going to get a business and you weren't going to go ahead in life. So my grandfather literally packed up everything he had, came across an ocean, and my grandmother would say many years later that this country was the greatest country on earth. Thank you. It was what the philosophers and the political thinkers have always dreamed up, the miracle that is the United States Constitution. and we see it being eroded every single day. And every single one of us on this stage is up against it. This progressive state network is the statist agenda in this country, and it's fighting against every single one of them and me. And they're seeking to take bigger control of our economy, our healthcare, energy, finance, and housing. You might not know this, but under TARP, you and I now own $5 trillion of bad mortgages that are off the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. And they're saying TARP was a success. They call it stimulus, and it paid for schools and health care or Maine care in this state. There was nothing stimulative about that. So it's time we fight back, and we are going to do it and remind Americans, generations of Americans, what made this country great. And I know what made this country great because my uncles and my fathers, and I know many of you fought for it. Well, this time the fight is different. We never thought it would come here within this country and manifest itself as our own insidious spending. So we're the freedom warriors this time, and you need to join me, and you need to stand shoulder to shoulder next to every single one of these folks. And I'll tell you what I tell everybody across this state, or this district. All we need is 39 House seats in the United States House, and we get that gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hand. Begins again. Get out and support these folks. Stand shoulder to shoulder with them. I will tell you, every day counts. Every inch counts. Every vote counts. We wake up early every single morning, come home late every single night, and I will tell you, just as the gentleman told me here before, I can feel your support. And it means a whole lot to the tired and weary candidate. So God bless you guys. God bless America. Let's win this thing in November. Let's remember this day here. That this was the day we started the fight to win back that House seat in Maine's 1st Congressional District. Send Shelley home. Send Nancy home. Thank you very much.